My name is Tom. I'm a typical office worker, turning 30 this year. I just do the tasks assigned to me. I don't excel at anything in particular. I'm the youngest of three brothers, but my two older brothers are quite exceptional. The oldest is a lawyer, and the second is a doctor. As for me, no matter how hard I tried in school or sports, I was always average. I tried desperately to catch up with my brothers but never could. My parents would tell me, "You have your own strengths, so it's okay." But I couldn't help but notice that I'm being compared to my brothers by teachers and others, leading to a massive inferiority complex. With that in mind, I know I wouldn't be able to aim high at work, so I just perform my duties to avoid being a burden to the company. I finish my assigned work within working hours, and after hours, I voluntarily do tasks like filing and restocking supplies. That's about all I can contribute. I try not to stand out and just do what's required. Living quietly in my current position suits me. Evidently, my immediate superior now is a younger employee who joined the company after me. He's already been promoted to supervisor, leaping over me. Even my junior colleagues are surpassing me. The major tasks are assigned to the capable younger employees. I only get the leftover, insignificant ones. I'm pretty much sidelined. I have to admit that myself. I try not to be a nuisance, but being an older failure must be annoying. Even though I work quietly at my desk, there's someone who greets me without discrimination. That's Emily Johnson, who works in the same department. She's bright, has big eyes, and her dimples are cute when she smiles. She's popular among the male employees, is a colleague of the supervisor, and at 28, younger than me. She's very competent and handles many large projects. Despite all that, she treats everyone, including me, equally. What I admire about her is that she says thank you more often than sorry. Just this morning, she came to me and said, "You put together the materials yesterday, right?" Thanks, that really helped. Everyone admires her sincerity, but there's one person who glares at this. That's the supervisor, Ken. There's a rumor that he's interested in her. He often works with her and takes her along on business trips. I have no interest in other people's love lives, but his obvious behavior is pretty clear to see. Because of that, he doesn't like it when Emily talks to male employees. Even if it's just about work, he glares at her for talking so amicably. Especially if she talks to someone like me, a low-level employee, with a smile, his face becomes too scary to even look at. Just the other day, after a brief chat, he said, "What were you talking about?" There's no reason for her to talk to someone like you. By the way, he used to call me Tom before he became a supervisor, but now it's just someone like you. Well, I suppose I deserve that, given how much I've fallen. When Ken asked what we were talking about, I honestly said, "She just asked about the materials I put together." But he responded, "There's no way she would talk to someone like you." Don't get any ideas, and left with a click of his tongue. I do think Emily is beautiful, but I respect her for her work. I'm not interested in her in that way, but I couldn't tell him that directly. Probably because she had been talking to me recently, it must have annoyed him. Since then, Ken seems to have targeted me, making me help with his tasks, leaving me with no free time. Because I was working on the supervisor's orders, I even got rare overtime pay. Still, I thought I should at least do some simple filing, so I worked on some tasks out of his sight. One of the documents I had filed turned out to be something Emily needed. She approached me and said, "Thanks for the supplementary note yesterday. You always help with the little things." Unfortunately, Ken saw this and said, "Don't get close with Emily. You're useless and make my eyes sore." He must have been really upset, because from that day on, he started calling me out in front of everyone and scolding me for mistakes. If they were my mistakes, I would have no objections, but they were clearly his errors, and he yelled at me as if they were mine. It's pathetic, really. I should just say, "Those were your mistakes, Ken," but I can't defy my superior. After a month of this, my stomach started to ache from the stress. The yelling kept escalating, becoming more and more unreasonable. Ken seemed intent on showing Emily and everyone else how incompetent I was, but honestly, I had reached my limit. One day, as usual, he yelled at me in front of everyone, "You're always making mistakes. Just quit already." Something snapped inside me, and I thought I couldn't go on like this anymore. So, I said, "Okay, I'll quit." The office fell silent. I was about to leave when something unexpected happened. A voice from behind said, "That's not right. Do you know who keeps your work running smoothly?" It was Emily. She continued, "And most of those mistakes are yours, right? It's despicable to blame others for your own errors." Emily, who always spoke politely to Ken as her superior, was now obviously angry. She, usually composed, openly displayed her anger. Ken, who had been trying to make everyone, especially her, seeming as incompetent, was stunned into silence. Emily said, "Tom is great at organizing documents and adds notes so others don't have to search for information. He always anticipates and handles the small tasks, but Ken, you're not paying any attention to your subordinates, are you? Even we can see this. So maybe you should cool off for a bit." After that, she went back to her work. Everyone was surprised by her outburst, but when they made eye contact with me, they smiled and nodded knowingly. Did I just get praised? Embarrassed by my own thoughts, I went back to my desk. After that, Ken stopped giving me tasks and looked dejected. The next day, he didn't assign me any work or talk to me at all. Suddenly, I had too much free time. So, I decided to focus on my own tasks. I aimed to finish everything by the end of the day and got to work on my computer. Just then, Emily called out to me. "Tom, could you join my project team? I've got the supervisor's approval." I was momentarily stunned, not understanding what was being said. Project teams are usually for top employees, so I never expected to be called upon. I asked her several times to confirm, but it seemed there was no mistake. I wondered why me, but since the supervisor had approved it, I had no choice but to accept. Following her to the meeting room, I glanced at Ken, who was glaring at me. However, he didn't say anything anymore. From that day, my life changed completely. The project was the company's top priority, and the tasks were incomparable to what I had done before. As a lower-level employee, all I could do was follow Emily's instructions. Surprisingly, it suited me well. The long-term nature of the project required intense teamwork, and through this, my skills visibly improved. I was surprised to realize it myself, but my innate attention to detail seemed to work in my favor. While working hard on significant tasks, this naturally developed into a valuable skill. The executives even said, "We underestimated your abilities. Your attention to detail is invaluable." This boosted my confidence. Since then, I started getting assigned more team-based tasks. People began inviting me to join their projects, and I worked more frequently with Emily. I used to be filled with inferiority, but receiving praise and recognition significantly boosted my confidence. Now, I find work incredibly enjoyable. Even my colleagues started saying, "You're becoming more reliable." Around that time, I started spending more time with Emily outside of work. We found out we lived close to each other, so we often had dinner together after work and spent weekends together. As we spent more time together privately, I realized I had developed feelings for her. One day, after a date, I gathered my courage and confessed my feelings to her. However, I was rejected. "I appreciate your feelings, but I have a hard time with men." She looked down as she said this. I had hoped for a better response, and the rejection was a shock I couldn't hide. But what puzzled me was the way she refused. "I like you, but I'm sorry." She said this at the end. Maybe it was my imagination, but it felt like she had feelings for me as well. That's why the rejection didn't make sense. I expected things to get awkward, but she continued to treat me the same way at work. Even though I still liked her, I was content just working together. I felt awkward inviting her for dinner alone, but then she invited me instead. We went to our usual place after work. That day, despite seeming cheerful at work, she looked a bit down during dinner. On the way home, she stopped walking. Sensing something was off, I asked, "What's wrong?" She remained silent for a while, then looked at me with teary eyes. I tried to give up, but I can't. "I like you too." Her lips were trembling. It seemed she had more to say but couldn't find the words. "Can we sit and talk?" She nodded. We sat on a bench in a nearby park. After calming down, she began to speak slowly. "Have you ever wondered why I always wear long sleeves, even in summer?" Emily asked cautiously. I recalled that she always wore long sleeves and never wore skirts, only pants. I had just assumed she was sensitive to the cold, considering the office was air-conditioned. When I expressed my assumption, she smiled but quickly returned to a serious expression. You see, I can't show my skin. I hide it because I don't want anyone to see it. Normally, it's fine because I can keep it covered. But if I were in a relationship, I couldn't keep it hidden. That's why I'm scared to date men. Her trembling voice conveyed her deep feelings, and I could tell she was forcing herself to talk. I have big scars on my arms and legs. From a car accident when I was a child. She then shared the details. She was hit by a truck at an unmarked crosswalk when she was in first grade. She suffered severe injuries and had no consciousness after hitting her head. Fortunately, a nurse witnessed the accident. Thanks to her immediate first aid, her life was saved. Despite the severe injuries, her recovery was smooth, thanks to that nurse. The hospital where I was taken happened to be where that nurse worked, and she would often check on me until I was discharged. Sorry for the irrelevant details. Anyway, the scars from that accident are terrible. But you're the first person I've ever told this to. Listening to Emily, I didn't know how to respond, but I shared my honest feelings. I can't lightly say that it doesn't matter, considering how you feel, but thank you for telling me. Tears welled up in her eyes. Understanding how much courage it took for her to share this, I felt a tightness in my chest. We both realized that our feelings were mutual, and she said her feelings hadn't changed. When I suggested we take our time building our relationship, she nodded and said, yes. And so, we started dating. This newfound relationship motivated me even more at work, and I was enjoying my life. However, as I continued dating Emily, a vague memory kept coming back to me and nagging at my mind. It was about Emily's accident. I didn't want to touch on her emotional scars, but I couldn't stop thinking about it, and I couldn't hold it in any longer. Hey, you might not want to remember this, but I began the conversation. At the time of the accident, were you wearing pigtails? Emily looked puzzled. Yeah, I used to wear high pigtails back then. Why? She seemed surprised, and I was equally astonished. No way. Was the accident in front of the big slide at the park in the neighboring town? Her eyes widened further. Yes, it was. How do you know that? My heart skipped a beat. I think I might have been there during your accident. Her eyes widened in shock. Hearing her story about the accident, I realized our hometowns were close. And the details about being hit by a truck and a nurse providing first aid had been bothering me. That day, I was with my mom, riding our bikes to the nearby supermarket. On the way back, we witnessed a car accident. My mom immediately stopped her bike and ran over. As a nurse, she quickly provided first aid and called an ambulance. Then, she called my grandma, who was at home, to come take care of me. And she rode with the injured child in the ambulance. Considering the age difference between Emily and me, the timeline matched perfectly with her story. I asked, and it turned out that the hospital Emily was admitted to was the same one where my mom worked. So, the person who helped me was your mom? We were both overwhelmed with excitement. Let's call my mom, I said, fumbling with my phone. I explained the situation to my mom. She vividly remembered the event and was so surprised that her words became incoherent. What? Emily? Of course, I remember her. We took a deep breath and calmed down, then handed the phone to Emily. She thanked my mom, who said, "It was my pleasure. Besides, you're taking care of my son now. Please come visit us sometime." A few weeks later, when the busy period at work was over, I took Emily to my parents' house. As soon as my mom saw her, she hugged her tightly and said, "You've grown up so wonderfully." With tears in her eyes. Emily once again expressed her gratitude, but my mom, smiling broadly, said that seeing her healthy was all that mattered. It's amazing how things turn out, isn't it? My mom, surprised but smiling, said it was truly an astonishing coincidence. Emily brought a gift of my mom's favorite pastries, which delighted her. Her parents also spoke with my mom on the phone, making it a day of joyful reunions. However, there was also an embarrassing moment. As they reminisced, Emily said, "You used to visit my hospital room often after work. The stories you told me about your son were about Tom, right?" Hearing this, my mom covered her mouth and said, "Oh." Emily then smiled and said to me, "I heard about your mischievous acts and how you were quite the mama's boy." My mom started laughing. "Mom, come on," I said in a panic, while they laughed heartily. Although it was an embarrassing moment, it was also a happy one. Having someone important to me nearby and healthy made me feel truly happy. That alone was enough to make me feel blessed. There was another thing that made me happy. On the day Emily and my mom reunited, they exchanged contact information while I was out of the room. I found out about this later. One day, Emily suddenly said, "I was talking to your mom." I was taken aback and asked, "Wait, when did you talk to her?" We had only visited my mom that one time. Apparently, they had already become close friends. They occasionally emailed each other, chatting like girlfriends, not just about me. Emily confided in my mom about her insecurities regarding her scars. She told me how much my mom's words meant to her. "Those scars are proof that you fought hard to live. The pain from those scars and your current emotional pain are different. But you've endured and thrived despite your struggles." Who would laugh at such scars? If it was me, I'd gently touch them and say, "I'm so proud of you. I wish I could heal your emotional wounds too." I'm sure Tom feels the same way. She said those words made her very happy. Whenever she had confided in someone about her scars before, they would just tell her not to worry about it. But my mom said something that made her feel warm inside. Emily continued, "When I confided in you, you didn't just tell me not to worry about it, you accepted my feelings. That made me happy. Thank you." She held my hand as she said this. Since then, although she still wears long sleeves, she has been able to roll up her sleeves a bit. While she doesn't feel the need to show her scars to everyone, the fear of being seen has lessened. Proof that I've fought hard to live. Those words have become a source of strength for her. Her smile seems even brighter now. I vowed to protect that smile for the rest of my life.